Hi, and so welcome back to this first one then on finding maps on an EDC15. As I say in the beginning of all these videos, you know, take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt, or take what I'm saying as gospel, or whatever you want to do. There's people out there that are far cleverer than me. But hey, I'm giving this up for free, so it's always served me well. So, right, what are we looking at? Again, we're back on this Seat Toledo EDC15. Remember, we're learning Winols, not necessarily the car, and this is the place to start. To learn Winols is with our most simple software, and this is pretty much it. In order to know what we're looking at here, we need to identify our maps and make sense of the numbers in our maps, so that the first thing we need to do is start to recognize maps and their shapes, and then only when we've got a list of maps up here that we've identified can we work out what it is we're looking at with our numbers, basically. So here we go from the beginning. Remember, these are our map areas. We'll concentrate on this one for now. It's the first one, it's fine. Winols has identified 89 potential maps. How Winols finds that is through its graphs, through the axis. It sees the axes at the beginning of a map here, and then it decides that that must be a map, and that's why it also can't be relied on, because you don't always have axes with maps. But it does help, particularly in EDC15. So off we go. The first map here is something that we're interested in. It's the first map in the file. Learn to recognize the shape. So if I'm interested in this map, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click here. There's keyboard shortcuts for all sorts of things. They're all on Winols. You know, you can find them yourselves. I'm just doing things the way I do them. It's not necessarily the quickest, it's not necessarily the best, just the way I do it. That's the great thing about it. You'll do it the way you do it. So I'm going to double click there. Alright, well, Winols remembers information from other files you've got. So it will have information here. For me, you won't have this, okay? So I'm going to just set it back to pretty much how you find it here. But at least it helps now, for now. This information's all taken, obviously, from a Damos, whatever you want to call them. And it often gets it wrong, Winols, and it's only in older ECUs that it helps you with this info. With the newer ones, it doesn't recognise it, and it doesn't give you this info later. So that's how it will open up for you if you're first on Winols. Now, you're not going to know what you're looking at particularly. Obviously, we've had a bit of help from the info that was on there just now. But you can see by these numbers, bearing in mind this is a diesel, they all bottom out by 5,000 RPM on a car we're talking about here, not a truck. This one here is the EGR map, and this data is our MAF, if you like, so it's in milligrams of air. And then we need to change the factor, because this is a raw binary, so we've got to change our factor. So we've got 0.01, 0.1, 0.001. You can see what it's doing there. And because we know in this case it's milligrams of air, 850 is fine for me. So that is our factor. Okay, so to load up the properties box, I just double click there. There is other ways. I think you can probably right click, and if you click on the axis, it will automatically come to the axis in the properties box like this. Let's see, and you can then go to the other ones, the other tabs from it if you want. So that's our EGR map. This one here, we can see this is engine speeds here. So I'm going to fill in the properties here, engine speed in RPM. And this one, because we're measuring air, if you like, we need RPM. The other thing we're going to want really there is injection quantity. Make sure I get it spelled right. We're going to call it IQ in all future maps, and that's in milligrams per stroke. And because it's in milligrams per stroke, well, we know that our maximum value here can't be 51,000, so what makes sense is let's do a factor of 0.01. And so there we are. That map controls the EGR valve. You can see the car will be coming along, working its way down here like this as you're putting your foot down. It tends to do something like that, you know. So if you're flooring it, basically this is the map of fresh air as opposed to EGR. So if you're just pottering down the road, you'll have a mix of fresh air and EGR. If you're flooring it, it closes the EGR valve, and there you go. It'll all make more sense later on. So that's the first map, finding our maps. There's our EGR. Remember how they look. I'm going to scroll on. Okay, scrolling on. So remember, this is finding your own maps. There's other ways. You could get a Damos file or a map pack, or use EDC15 suite, you know, or automated software that like StageX that will find it for you. But this is the key here, finding things and yourself, working it out for yourself. Okay, so as I scroll through, the next map I'm interested in is this one here. I can see by the shape that I'm interested in it. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to double click here. And again, thank you Winols. You've already worked it all out for me, but I'll put it back to the beginning. That's how you would find it, which is there. So I suppose really what I should have done was downloaded Winols demo and done it all from scratch so that you didn't see that, and to help, but in the end you work it out anyway. So this one here, I can tell by the shape of this one, this is the driver wish map. And so what are we looking at? Well, we can tell that these numbers are pretty similar to how they were in our EGR map, so this must be engine speed in RPM. This one, by the looks of the way the numbers are, if that was 100%, so we're going to say that's pedal position in percent. So what factor do we need to get that down to 100%? 0.01, there we go, 0.01. So that's our pedal position. So this map controls the throttle pedal, engine speed, position of the throttle pedal. So it's fair to say that this is going to control IQ, or injection quantity, in milligrams. If it's controlling our injection quantity in milligram, then we know that that factor for milligram in our EGR valve was 0.01, and that would make sense. So the driver puts his foot down all the way to the floor. As we go down the RPM, driver's requesting 70 milligrams per stroke of diesel. Right up until, well, pretty much 5,000 RPM, where it drips off. I mean, the car's already died by then, really. It's all done. So the driver puts his foot down and it'll request 70 milligrams of diesel per stroke. Obviously you can change all of this, but there we are. Remember, this is a request map, so it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get 70 milligram, but we'll come to that later. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense. We'll go over everything later on once we've got all our maps together in another video. We'll come back to them and try and look over the numbers again and make more sense. Right now we just need to find the maps that we're interested in. So we've got EGR, Driver Wish. Okay, and I think I'm just going to leave it there now, just to keep the videos a bit shorter. So that's the first one, and we'll come back and do some more on this file in the next video.